In the 10 months that have been President Donald Trump's judicial nominees have been glaring in their lack of race and gender diversity. An analysis of Donald Trump's nominees found that 91% of them are white, while 81% of them are male. Compare that to the former President Barack Obama, whose nominees are 65% or were 65% white and 58% male. Trump is nominating white males to the court at the highest rate in nearly 30 years. So how will the lack of judicial diversity translate to decisions coming out of the federal courts? Joining us to talk about this is Kyle Berry, Senior Policy Counsel for the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund. Kyle, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So what do you make of these numbers, and are the numbers really that bad, and are they moving at such a rapid pace?
Yeah, the numbers are extraordinary. And I think, I think we should begin with the premise that having diversity on our federal courts is not a partisan issue. Okay, we are long past the time of having a debate about whether it's okay for the federal judiciary to be all white.
You've got to value diversity, don't you, in order to deeply appreciate it and believe that, whether you're a Democrat or Republican.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think it's important to know that even previous Republican presidents and their Republican senators who value judicial diversity and have talked about it, even if their records are not so great, and that President Trump is regressing even from prior Republican administrations.
And they're younger, and they're white males, which mean, and the Federalist Society or the Federalist Group is helping him pick these conservative judges that are built and think in his Trump image, if you will.
Yeah, I think this is one way that it demonstrates how he's truly trying to manipulate the courts for his own political ends. He wants judges that will enable and support his own partisan agenda, in part because he keeps losing in court on his most controversial policy matters. And this is just one way in which his judicial picks, the lack of diversity, is undermining the very legitimacy of the courts and the rule of law. He's not just appointing all white, very young, very conservative lawyers. He's appointing not qualified lawyers. His judicial picks have received not qualified ratings from the nonpartisan American Bar Association at a record rate. He's already nominated 4 people who have received a not qualified rating. President Obama didn't nominate a single one of them. 2 of them have been unanimously rated not qualified, doubling the total number that we've had since 1989 already. And so when you put that together with the lack of diversity, when you put it together with his criticizing any judge who dare rule against him, we're undermining the public confidence that we have in our courts. We're undermining the legitimacy of our courts as independent and not political.
And
it's very
Kyle,
dangerous.
if I may, this is all kind of riding under the mainstream, if you will. Because one thing the Republicans have figured out how to do very efficiently and effectively is to appoint these judges to lower courts, district court, federal district courts, circuit courts, right? And while we're arguing about health care and tax reform and whether Donald Trump equivocates on white racists and the KKK, one thing that I found that really disturbing is all these federal judgeships are moving through efficiently and effectively, and the Democrats really can't do anything about it.
It's a good point, and so far the Republican caucus has voted in lockstep to confirm these lower court judges. But think about the Republican senators and other Republicans who have started to distance themselves from the White House a little bit, to say this behavior is extreme, these policies are not normal. Where are they on judges? This is not normal. Nominating 91% white judicial nominees is not normal. Appointing not qualified judicial nominees is not normal. This is part of the extremist agenda that at least some Republicans, Jeff Flake, Bob Corker, have very publicly distanced themselves from, but they haven't done it on judges. And this is an issue that's, because we're talking about lifetime appointments, is going to have an impact for potentially the next 30, 40 years.
Yeah. Deontay, what is wrong with your president?
My president.
Does he believe in diversity at all, other than when he marries?
My president, he's doing fine. He's doing fine. First of all, I think it's very, irrational to compare 11 months to President Obama 2-term, 8 years. Wow. President Trump has only been in office for 11 months.
But why the lack of diversity?
How do we even know that there aren't any black judges that are being considered? We have to be able to look at.
That mean a damn thing. They're not being appointed. they're not being put up for.
How do we know they're not being considered? I mean, because the thing about
why does it matter who's considered? Who is he actually putting in front of Congress to be approved?
Comparing 11 months.
Let's say they are. Let's say they are being
President Trump
considered.
being I mean,
but they're not being
President Obama
appointed at least in the first 9 months or 12 months of his administration. It's not 12 months, 9 months. I mean, if they're being considered, really, so what? How do you explain the lack of diversity? And these courts really are affecting the lives of people who live in communities of color, and our judges, like our juries, ought to reflect America. And right now, those numbers of appointments simply don't do it. I mean, as a black conservative, as a black Republican, don't you have a strong opinion on diversity and your own people?
The first and foremost, I have a strong opinion on justice. As long as justice is being served, and as long as all the judges are
qualified.
It's a good point, though.
Yeah,
because many of them aren't qualified.
And equally representing our justice system. Okay. Now the thing about it is this: let's not play like that. That politics doesn't take care of party. Okay, let's not play that party.
But this is an independent judicial nomination that affects the criminal justice system a lot. Avis, let me jump in, and then I'll come to you.
Here's the thing. Isn't it true that when President Obama was in office, you had the Republicans stall a number of his nominees? I believe there was 100 people, 100 vacancies in the court when this person took office, which is unprecedented, number one. Number two, since he's been in there, he has been appointing people at a record rate, and so far about half of those appointees have already been started to be pushed through Congress. So he is basically pushing through unqualified white men as fast as he possibly can.
Some who have never tried a case before.
Exactly. Is that not what's going on right now?
Yeah,
I think that was a compound question.
Yeah.
But I'll let you answer.
I'll take the,
Statement
second
two
part
for that
first.
matter, but go right ahead.
So it's definitely true that a big reason why President Trump has had so many vacancies to fill is that the Republican Senate refused to confirm, over the last couple of years, refused to confirm President Obama's nominees.
Wouldn't even interview his Supreme Court nominee.
Exactly.
All of which were qualified, which is an important point.
And this goes directly to the diversity point, because there were about a dozen of President Obama's nominees were people of color who were left pending. And President Trump has replaced 10 of those nominees in each case with a white nominee. So he is directly trying to undo what are much needed efforts to diversify the courts.
Tiffany?
Scott, not only that, when he ran 45, he who should not be named. When he ran, he said, 45. You can say it. 45. He's not my president.
We can all say 45. Go right ahead.
He made sure that he made this narrative across the country that he was going to make America great again. And in his eyes, this is what that looks like. Anybody who sits on this panel and tries to fool anybody who's watching the show by saying that we can be hopeful that he cares about diversity and will at some point appoint black people, Latino people, Asian Pacific Islander people, transgender folks to the Supreme Court is fooled. And we have to make sure that when we're talking about 2018 elections, we're talking about 2020, he's running for re-election, because I know he will, that we are taking this all into consideration. I'm 28 years old. 40, 50 years from now, I don't want to see an all-white Supreme Court that has to deal with all the issues that I'm dealing with my family, my community as an adult.
That'll have to be the last word. Kyle, thank you for joining us.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no. That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.